The game begins with our protagonist waking up and being released from a sleeping pod. Immediately after that, you are already able to freely control your character. By moving along the hallways, Elster will eventually come across a room with a cryopod that is locked and can only be opened by a button combination. By looking through the rooms of the ship, we get to know that the gestalt that has been with us is missing alongside one of 2 spacesuits. To leave the ship ourselves, we need to find the airlock key first, but the only thing in our hands so far is a piece of tape. In the cockpit of the vessel, the news don't seem to get better, as the ship apparently shows no signs of moving again soon. Despite all the bad news here, one of the instruments has a Polaroid photograph attached to it. By the way, in the physical version of the game, you get a lenticular image version of the Polaroid you can find here. Anyway, now that she's able to open the cryopod, Elster heads there, opens it and finds a broken airlock keycard. But thanks to the tape found earlier, she's able to fix it. Following that, she puts on the spacesuit and heads into the snowstorm until she arrives at a hole that leads to the entrance of the mining facility. After heading down, she has to squeeze through a hole leading inside. Here the game changes into the first-person view for the first time. At the end of the tunnel, she finds herself in a small room that seems like a worker's bedroom. The most notable things here are a computer, a book named The King in Yellow, and a safe with multiple locks and chains around it. After picking up the book, the computer activates and the text "preparing to send message" appears, followed by a back and forth of a number code appearing on screen and flashing images of sceneries and Elster's ever-deteriorating body, before a red screen with the words "Remember Our Promise" shows and the first chapter begins. Here, Elster finds herself inside a bathroom of the mining facility. Outside, there is a lobby-like waiting room, with an elevator at the top end, a broken door on the left, a door that needs a visitor pass from the receptionist to the right, and the bathroom door at the bottom. At the receptionist's desk, we find a note with a keycard attached to it explaining new arrivals shall go inside themselves, so she takes the card and moves through the right door. Here, the game opens up and besides more doors, the first safe room can be found. Right outside, 2 so-called Eule or owl units can be found that seem to be in a horrible state. She makes her way through room after room until she comes across a star or starling replica that seems injured as well. She seems to be surprised to see Elster and warns her that the situation inside the facility is hopeless. Elster ignores her warnings, shows her the picture of the gestalt and asks if she has seen her. Star tells her she doesn't know her, but if she is still alive, Elster's best shot of finding her is looking in the mine below the facility, as apparently all gestalt workers have been sent there. She sends us off by telling us that there is another elevator on the floor below, but we need another keycard to get there. So, after picking up a keycard, not the one she needs to get down though, next to the star unit, she heads back to keep exploring, until finding the room that the keycard can be used for. Inside the very small room is a computer and a desk with a drawer. Inside the drawer is the first weapon of the game, the 9mm pistol, a manual for said pistol, and an aperture card. With the pistol equipped, our protagonist heads towards another room, where she witnesses a gestalt named Isa with a knife in her hand next to a destroyed replica. Isa is apparently looking for someone named Erika, but she doesn't really explain anything and just leaves Elsa be. With her gun, Elsa can put the aperture card from the drawer inside a device that reveals information including a safe combination. After tracking down and opening the associated safe, Elsa finally gets her hands on the desired classroom key. Inside the classroom, she jumps through a hole in the ground to reach the next floor. Here, the situation seems to be even worse than upstairs, as several replica units can be seen going wild, with several more dead on the floor. But with no other option than to keep moving forward, Elster is back to exploring. She comes across workers' bedrooms, a broken door, and a working elevator that needs a keycard to be operated. Inside the working elevator, a key can be found to open a maintenance hatch on the broken door. Past said now repaired door, our heroine gets access to what looks like a medical wing of the facility. Here, besides some supplies, a locked box with a blue butterfly on top, another safe, and a keycard to gain access to the kitchen can be found. By passing through said kitchen, a cafeteria can be accessed that contains another door leading to a lab with an X-ray device and an injured Storch or Stork unit. Further, inside a bathroom next to the lab, one half of a broken key can be found laying on the ground, with the second half being inside a group shower close by. After combining both parts, the key shows the same blue butterfly that was on top of the box found earlier. So after checking the other rooms for supplies and finding a piece of paper with some frequencies and words written next to them, Elster heads to the room with the butterfly box. With the box now unlocked, its contents are revealed to be the so-called Plate of Eternity. After touching said plate, a first-person scene is triggered where we find ourselves at one of the sceneries from the flashing images at the very beginning, a radio station in the mountains. Here we get access to the first permanent item, the radio module, and by setting it to a specific frequency, we manage to open a door that leads into a dark hallway before being transported back to Elster. Now that we have the radio module, we can put in the frequencies from the sheet of paper we found alongside the parts of the butterfly key. Those reveal the number combinations to several saves that belong to each of the words written on said paper. One of these saves contains an ID card needed to operate the elevator. The elevator can be used to get to 6 different floors. On floor 1, the only unnamed floor, we can find Isa again, who tells Elster that she is looking for her sister. The second floor, named Workers' Quarters, is the only one we already have been on before entering the elevator in the first place. The third floor, called Hospital Wing A, causes the elevator to have a malfunction or power outage. So the floors 4, Hospital Wing B, 5, Maintenance Level, and 6, Protector Quarters, can't be reached for now. The first thing Elster comes across in the hospital wing is a shotgun, a room with an X-ray device, another one with a VHS player, and a panicking oiler unit. She tells Elster that everyone got sick and started behaving weirdly, and that she is afraid to die. Further, she comes across an armored door that requires 5 keys to open: a fire, a water, an earth, a wind, and a golden key. The fire key can be found in a crematory alongside the first flares. The water key is inside a flooded area that needs to be drained before you're able to enter. The earth key has to be artificially created by printing its pattern on a blank card. The air key is hidden inside a vent, and last but not least, the golden key is acquired through another first-person sequence that is triggered after watching a videotape. Here, we find ourselves in a subway where we see Ariana Young sitting and staring on the ground. After getting closer, she suddenly disappears, and where she was seated lays the golden key. Afterwards, we are able to pass through the armored door and leave the hospital area. But before we can get into the next chapter of Elster's journey, she has to overcome the first boss fight against a mining nuclear tech high security replica or miner unit. To defeat her, you have to dodge her charged up laser attacks until she drops to the ground, which opens up her armor and makes her vulnerable. Afterwards, Elster is met by an Adler or Eagle unit, who she shows the Polaroid picture to ask if he knows something. The Polaroid picture, by the way, this time shows a woman named Alina So instead of Ariane. Adler looks at the photo before pushing Elster down an elevator shaft and telling her she shouldn't have come back. Following that, the scene changes to a school where we are put in the role of Isa, who witnesses a scene where Ariane is being bullied by a group of girls. Right after that, Elster wakes up at the bottom of the elevator shaft on level 5, or the maintenance level. Here, there are only 2 rooms, one safe room with the key to get outside, and one with a fuse box that needs a replacement fuse to work properly again. Outside, we find ourselves in a stairwell that goes from floor 5 and all the way down to floor 8. On floor 6, the first thing catching the eye is the huge red post box that needs a key to get to what is hidden inside. This floor is also much more spacious, with a few rooms to explore, and even more that are locked behind regular keycards. Or a mechanic I teased before, where the door only opens if the room is well lit. So it is on us to find the flashlight upgrade for Elster now. Along the way, Elster also notices a paternoster lift that has no power, before going inside the last room on this floor for now, with a hole in the ground leading to the 7th floor. After dropping down, we get to witness a scene between Adler and Isa, who, with a knife in her hand, tries to get into the commander's offices. But before we get to know if anything happens between the two, we are already back in Elster's shoes in the hallways of floor 7. Here, in the break room, Elster finally gets her hands on a new fuse, so she heads back to the 5th floor to reactivate the electricity, which in return activates the paternoster lift. Using the new lift to get to the 8th floor, our heroine finds herself in front of the commander's office where Adler confronted Isa before. Inside the office lays said commander, unconscious, with a locked box on her hands. With nothing else to do for now, it's time for her to explore some more, until she enters a dark room with a lit flashlight module on the table, which now enables her to navigate rooms without light and to unlock the light-activated doors. Next we gain access to the Owl Room, where the only thing of interest for now is the broken music tape on a desk at the top end of the room. Thanks to the flashlight, our protagonist also finds herself able to get into the shooting range. Here we get another roll of tape and a locked weapons case. With the help of the tape, she's able to fix the broken music tape she got just now. Following that, she is now able to enter a storage room where she finds multiple keys, one being able to open the weapons case that reveals to have a revolver stored inside. On floor 8, she enters the so-called workshop with the help of a keycard she got by using another key from the storage on a hidden keyhole behind a painting. On the table inside stands a transmitter able to send music played from music tapes through the facility. With the songs now playing through Elsa's radio device, she heads to the commander's office, where the sound of the music triggers the box inside the commander's arms to open, which reveals the Hummingbird keycard inside. This then enables us to enter the Hummingbird room that grants us possession of the Eagle keycard and the postbox key. Inside the postbox we find the library key. After entering the library, we find a grieving colibri or hummingbird unit sitting in the corner. On the other side of the room is a little archive device that gives us a little disk after navigating through its labyrinth-like control scheme. With said disk, we are able to put in the code to a locked grey box that only opens if we position the planets of our solar system in the right distance to one another. Through the box containing the administrator key, Elsa is finally able to leave the facility and get into the actual mining area. But before she arrives there with an elevator, we witness Isa stepping Adler, who was hunting her with a rifle from behind, and pushing him into a mineshaft. While descending deeper and deeper into the depths of the mine, Elsa passes several different types of heavily injured replica units that seem to all have lost hope in one way or another. Now, aside from the flare gun, that is pretty much it for this level of the facility, until we come across a sealed shaft leading even deeper into the mine. At the bottom is the hole Adler got stabbed at and Elsa has to jump into to progress on her mission. As soon as she makes a step forward, an image of Alina So flashes before we find ourselves in a first-person section at a beach. Here, lying in the sand, are several pieces of paper containing parts of what seems like a poem. Back to Elster, she finds herself in an even more rundown place simply called Nowhere. To leave this place, she has to find 6 relics that fit inside designated places inside another heavy door. But first, Elsa has to overcome her fear and jump down a hole consisting of pulsating flesh. Inside, she has to help Isa fight the second boss of the game. To defeat it, we actually just have to distract it long enough for Isa to reload Adler's rifle. Isa then shoots the monster, but knocks herself out in the progress. Elsa brings her into the next room and makes her way back into the facility. We can get our ally back on her feet by using a bottle that contains what seems like smelling salts, I would say. Afterwards, she will tell us that we can have the rifle if we want. Anyway, back to the hunt for the relics. One of those can be obtained by switching it with a wooden doll on top of a stone plate, so a mechanism doesn't lock you inside because of the missing weight. Another one is in a hand at a shrine that opens if you put 3 rings in the right order on the fingers of the other hand. The next 2 are found in the middle of 2 different labyrinths. One is inside the offering box at a shrine, and the last one was already in our possession from very early on in the game. Beyond the gate of the 6 plates, we are confronted by a worried Adler who warns us that the commander was never the same after going deeper into the red void behind them. But Elster, determined to find her Gestalt, heads inside. After wandering for a while, she arrives at her spaceship. Messages and images flash before her eyes, before she dies trying to open the ship from the outside. The credits roll, and we are back to the main menu. But something is different. Elsa's eyes are empty now, and if we continue with the game, we are back in the Pinrose. And while it is the same ship, everything else seems different. The reason for that is that we are now in space again at an earlier time before the crash landing. After finding some of Ariana's notes where she describes how she started to enjoy Elsa's company more and more as the days went on, and finishing our daily patrol, we get to enter Ariana's room. Upon entering, the happy Ariana hugs and kisses Elster, and the two begin to spend a romantic evening together, as it is apparently their 3000 cycle anniversary. Afterwards, more flashing images appear, and we are transported back to Elster laying on the ground. We see what appears to be Ariana standing over her body for a short time, before Elster reawakens. The still heavily injured replica drags herself inside only to find the body of another replica unit that is seemingly deceased. Elster begins to dismantle the other unit and attach their parts to her own body. She then makes her way to the other side of the ship, where she stands before another meat pit. She takes a moment before saying she couldn't stop now and jumps down again. We now find ourselves at the beach once more, but this time, in contrast to everything else, the scenery seems less distorted, and even the parts of the poems are clearly readable now. We continue walking for a while until we come across a wooden boat. We get a short view at what could be a red beacon or portal before a side profile close-up of Elster appears, and we find ourselves back in the role of our heroine inside the bathroom of the mining facility. Elster says that something is different, and that is at least somewhat of an understatement, as, like in the ship before, everything seems to be run down and red lines cover the ground almost like veins. The other rooms don't look better at all. Everything is covered in these red veins, and doors and walls are blocked by huge blob-like pulsating masses of flesh. Elster maneuvers the throbbing labyrinth until she comes across a key to a classroom that reveals much bigger arteries coming from another hole. When we drop down into this blood vessel chamber, we are confronted by the disfigured face of Adler, who ironically says, "You have changed." The scene switches to him kissing the unconscious Falke on the head, saying it seems like everything was taken apart and put back together by someone who doesn't know what he is doing. Another close-up of Adler that now looks like he's missing his entire face appears, telling us he wears no mask. Before more text flashes that says, "I have become whole again and I hate everything." Then we see the injured twin sister of Isa looking shocked at her own reflection in the mirror, before a final text appears asking the question, "Maybe this is hell." Back to Elster, the replica finds herself inside Ariana's old home called Rotfront. We find the store she worked at before going on the mission with Elster. We even get to see the store the family of the twins owned, and find the last weapon, the SMG. But in the end, all we want to do is leave again, as Ariana herself is nowhere to be found. To do so, this time Elster needs to locate 6 tarot cards: the sun, the moon, the star, death, the tower, and the lovers, that have to be placed on a desk according to hints inside the book next to said table. The lovers can be found inside a painting we saw properly painted by Ariana inside the Penrose before. The star is hidden inside a box with a magpie drawn on it, that only opens when we transmit a signal through Elster's radio module. The tower is on top of some sort of food tray in the public house room. You obtain the sun card by developing a photo of a QR code that grants you access to a mailbox. To obtain the moon, you will not have to task a bunch of very little yellow people with stealing it. Instead, you have to open a safe, and to find the combination for said safe, I actually had to look up the solution online. And it was one of the moments that made me feel really stupid after knowing the solution, because inside said room is a display with butterflies inside, and if you look closely, each of the insects has a letter written on its wing, making up the code word for the safe's log. Anyway, ownership of the death card is received through witnessing Isa's death inside her family's store. She says she looked everywhere for her sister, but she isn't here anymore, and that she is sorry, but she can't go on any longer, before disintegrating on the floor. The card itself is found in between a picture of each of the twin sisters on a shelf at the top side of the room. Now with all the cards in her possession, Elster lays them down in the right place and flips a switch showing the moon faces for 6 different planets. These faces we now have to put into the wall ornament in the central hub area of the area we are being in right now. And I really have to say that I liked how the area changed and got more and more overgrown as you made progress, like paths getting blocked off by new blobs of flesh. But back to the ornament, because as soon as the last moon face is set, the small hole in the middle suddenly becomes big enough to crawl through. Right after successfully doing that, we are back in first person mode, in the room from the very beginning with the PC and the book on the table. If we take the book, this time a message appears stating that the last seal has been broken and it's time to go home before switching to third person view in said room. We are then able to leave said room and enter a final safe room. Here we can check our gear one last time. By the way, if you plan on playing this game yourself, leave one spot free for the fight. It will make things much easier. Now after reading the last letters and final documents, it is time to face the final boss Falke. You walk along a hallway with a note from Adler on the ground, explaining that gestalts began dying like Isa did by simply dissolving and replicas began losing their mind. But he believes it not to be through a disease, but through corruption of reality itself. Following that, we stand before the bed in Falke's room. She asks Elster why she would return, as there is nothing left here for her. Right before rising from her laying position and transforming into her boss form surrounded by spears and with a halo above her head. And unlike anything else you faced in Signalis to this point, Falke does have 6 phases where she will always change sceneries, attack pattern and the damage she deals. To take her down, you should wait for her to throw her spear so you can pick one up for yourself. Then you should shoot her. I found the rifle or the flare with grenades to be the most effective when she gets down, Walk up to her and use the spear. Repeat this 6 times to win the fight. And this sounds easier than it is, as the phases get progressively more difficult. In phase 1, she will only warp around and throw spears at Elster. In phase 2, the area will change to some sort of medical facility. She will summon 2 opponents, and her spears will explode. Next, the scene will change to an office, and Falke will begin to fire waves that seem to distort the space around them. After this, Falke will receive 3 rotating pillars shielding her. She will also fire orb-like projectiles. In phase 5, the surroundings transform into a prison setting. Falke spawns 4 enemies at once, but will not change her attack pattern. And finally, Falke will receive 6 shields and use everything in her arsenal to damage Elster. But after this, the former commander is defeated. And while on paper this fight doesn't seem too difficult if you come prepared, the constant flashing and distorted pictures and the distracting sound effects do not help keeping the situation under control. And again, I really like this aspect of playing with the player's senses that horror games do, which was one of my favorite parts of Dead Space as well. Anyway, upon defeating her, we get a close-up shot of Elster with blood on her face before the scene switches to an image where she hugs Ariane. The scene fades, and we see Falke touching Elster's chest saying, "Now we are one," before dropping to the ground. Now back in the Red Void, the Adler with the missing face confronts our heroine, stating she has returned. He asks her if she really wants to go through with this again, despite knowing what happens. He explains that the world could not take much more, that everything will fall apart if she goes back. After saying he can't let that happen, Adler stabs Elster in the eye, which she counters by shooting him. The injured Elster makes her way past the crawling Adler into the void, heading for the Penrose. She heads inside, where notes can be found explaining how the 2 women ended up on the ship in the first place. Apparently, they were sent on a mission to find a new habitable planet for their people. For that, they had apparently 3,000 cycles until their resources would come to an end and the radiation from the ship's devices will begin to spread. Further, we come across a message from the government suggesting the Gestalt to either ask the replica to end her life or to sleep forever in the cryopod on board. Additional notes reveal that Ariane suffered from radiation for thousands of cycles anyway, with the note being written after over 5,000 cycles. And it gets way more depressing with diary entries of Ariane talking about her being bullied in school we witnessed before, and that she never felt like she belonged anywhere. The hopelessness, in combination with things like her writing about not wanting to die but not wanting to live, gave this game another layer I did not expect after witnessing their 3000 cycle anniversary. In another room we find the body of the original Elster, as it seems. As the Elster we are controlling right now comments our find with, "I couldn't keep my promise." With the game's final moments impossible to avoid, Elster enters Ariane's room, where she lies down sick looking in her cryopod. The entire room, even the insides of the cryopod, are covered in a bright shining red, like in the void we wandered a few times already. Elster kisses Ariane on the forehead, which is followed by Ariane saying her name. Elster, seemingly troubled, expresses her struggle with having to end the life of the person most precious to her. Even though she knows about the burden she's putting upon the only one that made the suffering woman feel unconditionally loved in her way too short life, Ariane begs Elster to do it. Elster, with a terrified look on her face, puts her hands around her neck, saying sorry. When the shared moment of torture and relief is over, a clearly broken being is left behind, kissing what used to be her reason to keep going on the forehead one last time before ceasing to exist herself. And this concludes the so-called promise ending of Signalis, which is also the one I got. The ending you get is determined by the things you do during your playthrough, like how often you die, how many enemies you defeat, or how often you talk to NPCs. The other endings you can get are called the leaf ending, the memory ending, and the secret artifact ending. In the memory ending, Ariane's room and cryopod are in their usual color, and instead of asking Elster to end her life, Ariane doesn't remember her. With this depressing realization, Elster lays next to her just asking to be allowed to stay to her side for a while. A German text flashes saying, "I am me again, but you are no longer you," before another text saying, "Perhaps this is hell." The scene then switches to Ariane petting the exhausted Elster's head. In the leaf ending, Elster is overwhelmed by her burden to end Ariane's life and leaves instead of entering the ship. She eventually lays down and ceases to exist. And last but not least, for the artifact ending, you will need to find 3 keys during your playthrough They need to be in Elster's inventory when moving through the tunnel at the end of the Moonface riddle. This will allow you to open the locks on the safe in the small bedroom with the book on the table. For the safe itself, you need a code that is transmitted in German at several points in the game, like the magpie signal in Rotfront. Inside the safe, there are a bunch of white lilies in a pot. Another German text appears saying, "In those days the humans will search for death, but they won't find it." Maybe referencing what happens to Ariane in the other endings. We then see Elster in a room with 6 pillars, putting the plant on top of one of said pillars before collapsing. The camera zooms out and switches to a top-down angle. Here, we can see the pillars are surrounding what looks like a cryopod overgrown with pulsating flesh, with a replica unit lying at each of the pillars. In the center of the pod lays a shiny square-shaped object with rounded corners and an octagonal hole in the middle. We get more German text saying, "It is fulfilled, the secret of this god, how she preached it to her servants, her prophets." The scene switches to the Penrose hovering in the red void with a huge dark eye watching from above. Next, the insides of the ship are shown, where Elster and Ariane can be seen dancing in a messy room. And for the final scene, we are back in first-person view on the beach. Here, we can find a few more cryptic notes, and in a cave lays the arm of a replica unit next to 5 skulls. The game fades to red and then to black, which marks the final moments of the last ending. Now, with all that information, even though I know the game is confusing on purpose, if you have the time, feel free to share what you believe is going on in Signalis and your favorite part of the game. For the story part, my opinion after playing, rewatching and researching the game for a while is that we have the promise between Elster and Ariane that Elster will end her life if the suffering becomes unbearable for her. We also have the concept of bioresonance, that is described like the ability to manipulate individuals and even reality itself by sheer willpower. The ability is also used in the creation of replicas, and Ariane is able to use bioresonance. So what I believe is that Elster failed her mission several times, and Ariane, determined to end her suffering, restarted the entire timeline, which destabilized the entire world or universe. Some individuals like Adler and Falke are immune to the bioresonance and the resets, which is why the two try to stop Elster. And because Ariane loses control about reality, the world and people that live inside and are not resistant become distorted themselves. Which would explain why everyone went berserk. Further, the Elster unit we are playing could actually be Alina Soos, another Gestalt unit's Elster. As for a huge part of the game, the image carried by Elster showing the person she is looking for actually shows her instead of Ariane. Yeah, but those are just my thoughts and what I could put together. And if you have your own theories or are deeper into the lore, feel free to share those in the comments.